I started a good resolution this weekend. I heard that it's very good to start your day with 10 minutes meditation. So I decided, why not? And I downloaded an app to help me stay on track, set the timer to 10 minutes. And this is what happened. Ouch. This cannot be the future of mobile advertising. I'm a marketer, and I got conned. And unlike any other screen in my life, when it happens on my mobile, I feel offended. My mobile is me. It goes everywhere with me. It's in my pocket. I use it to pay at the store. I use it to manage my work life, manage my personal life. I even use it to do things that you don't want to know and in places that you really don't want to know. If you're like me, you unlock your phone 150 to 200 times a day. If you're like millennials in this study, 1 in 5 of you have used your phone during sex. So it's a very, very personal device. And when an ad is interruptive like this, it's really offensive. It's very intrusive. And it's not good for the app developer, it's not good for the consumer, and it's definitely not good for Mountain Dew in this example. So consumers are telling us, stop. I don't want this anymore. And the rise of ad blockers is their way of rebelling against this very silly advertising. So it's not good for consumers. It's not good for publishers and advertisers either. Is this doomsday? Is it ad blockalypse now, like the Biz Report put it? Well, we don't think so. My name is Aurelie Guerrieri, and I'm VP Global Marketing Solutions at Cheetah Mobile. We see ad blockers as an opportunity because we do ads differently. And the reason we do ads differently is because we're first and foremost an app developer. We have the third largest mobile app audience in the world. We're probably the biggest app developer most of you have never heard of. We're third largest after Google and Facebook. 2 billion people have downloaded one of our apps somewhere in the world. It could be utility apps that we're famous for, like Clean Master and Battery Doctor. It could be games like Piano Tiles 2, with which we were very successful last year. It was a #1 game in 50 countries around the world in the Google Play Store. It could be other entertainment apps like Musical.ly, which is a video karaoke app very popular in the US, Live.me, which is a live streaming personal video app, or news app like Instant News in India. But most importantly, we've been lucky enough to build a business listed on the New York Stock Exchange almost exclusively based on mobile advertising revenues. And we can't do this without our users. If we piss our users off, like this happened in this meditation app, we lose our users. We don't have a business anymore. We can't pay the bills. So we've been students of mobile advertising. And over the years, we've been honing on native ads as a successful way to advertise to our audience. So let's set something clear from the get-go, because native ads is a buzzword that I'm sure you guys have heard a lot. It's not just about the format. It's not just putting an ad in context so it doesn't look like it's a standard ad. It's about timing and relevancy. It's about not being intrusive, but being inclusive of the user's needs. And you do this with data, mostly. And what kind of data, you will ask? Well, at Cheetah Mobile, we have a different data set than most other ad platforms. The utility apps I mentioned earlier, they have something very particular. In the process of making your phone run simpler and faster and safer, they analyze your cache. They analyze how much you use each app, how deep you go in the apps, how often do you use them. So we're not a social network. We don't have anything personal about you, any personal information. We don't know your name, we don't know who your friends are, and we definitely don't have any pictures of you last Saturday. But we know what kind of apps you use and how often you use them. And these mobile behaviors are mobile insights to us. This in the sea of big data, we extract the tiny data, the one that are indicative of your mobile intent, of what you're going to do next. So let's take the example of Julie. Julie is a fitness enthusiast. She has a fitness app, and she even used it this morning. That's great. Let's take this advertiser called Fiji Water. Fiji is looking to communicate and show their brand to fitness enthusiasts. So in the old model, we could just take the fact that Julie has a fitness app and show her an ad for Fiji any time of the day, maybe when she's at work. Not very relevant, might be intrusive, not very good for building a relationship between Fiji and Julie. But remember, we know she used this app this morning. She used it for 20 minutes. Maybe we can infer she was out on a run. What better way to connect Fiji to Julie than show her an ad for Fiji at the end of her run? And if we're smart enough to know her location, could we find out she's right next to a store and send her a coupon to go and get that bottle of water right there and right then? Wouldn't that be helpful? So this is the kind of moment that we're looking for. This is the kind of usage that we're looking to do of tiny data. Finding this moment where Fiji can provide satisfaction, delight to their consumers and not be intrusive like Mountain Dew was before. Another way we use this tiny data is with a function that we call iSwipe. One of the things I love about my Android phone is that I can customize the home screen to show only the apps that I'm using the most. Most launchers that do that will find a list of your top 15 apps and put them on your home screen, and it's going to be pretty static. iSwipe is a different way to do it. You can just swipe across the screen, and the apps that are showing up are dynamically updated based on what you need at that moment. So, for example, last week I went on a business trip to New York. I was going from client meeting to client meeting, and I was taking a lot of Ubers. Uber shows on my iSwipe top app list. Then I go back home in San Francisco. I'm driving my own car. I don't need Uber anymore. Out it goes, but I get my parking app that helps me find a parking spot in San Francisco. Very, very useful there. This is using tiny data. And wouldn't it be great for Hotel Tonight to be able to be one of those preferred apps and advertise to me as I go to New York? This is how we turn these mobile signals into marketing insights and make them relevant to advertisers. Human beings, we don't fit in boxes. Those demographic and psychographic boxes, they're just too tight for us. Mobile is actually forcing marketers to think outside those boxes. Some of the data that we collect is evergreen. Once a mom, always a mom. Some of the data is transient. For example, I downloaded Candy Crush 6 months ago to entertain my kids on a long car ride. I have not opened it a single time since. Sorry guys, I am not a casual gamer. But some platforms, some ad platforms think I am, and they continue to show me ads for more casual games. I will not click on any of those. You are wasting your marketing dollars with me. At Cheetah, we have 1,000 different ways to categorize your mobile gaming habits. We know what kind of game you like playing. We know how often you play, how deep you play, how recently you've played, and we layer on your demographic and psychographic information to create this 1,000 different myriads of the same facets of the same people. So let's take the example of this gamer. He's into card games. So we see him using that card game and playing a lot. But we notice over time, the cache that his card game is building on his phone is decreasing. So when he used to play every day, he's not playing every day anymore. And he's playing shorter and shorter sessions. So we can guess that this person is getting tired of that game. We also know from other analysis that we've run that he is into casual games. What better time than now to offer him a new game to try and advertise, in this case, juice jam. User is happy, taps on the game, tries it, plays with it, and there you go. You have a really valuable user experience. You've provided him with a really good suggestion at a time that was relevant for him, but you've also provided a really good user to the advertiser. You provided somebody that's going to have a really good lifetime value. It's a win-win. But this is hard. It's very hard to do. It takes artificial intelligence. It takes a lot of data. It takes an audience at scale in order to be able to apply this. It takes a platform that can manage it all and process it all. You know, whomever had the idea of putting a swimming pool on top and across 3 of the tallest buildings out there, that was pretty ambitious. I'm sure that was really hard to execute. It took a lot of architecting, a lot of engineering, a lot of building resources. You want somebody thinking like that, running your marketing programs. You want an ad platform that has that kind of strength and willpower. And you want somebody that's going to be striving to provide an elegant ad user experience, because you want to make the right impression from the first impression. And if you're using advertising to monetize, you definitely want to keep your users happy. So if you take this to the next level, if you think about evolution of advertising, one of the things that I'm excited about is thinking about ad formats that are not just ads. So remember how we said that most of us unlock our phones 150 to 200 times a day. I don't want to have to key in a code every single time I do this. I would go completely bananas. But there's a few apps that have some pretty sensitive information, my email, my Dropbox, my Facebook, that I want to protect. So we've come up with this feature called App Lock that enables you to lock just one app at a time. So it's a utility, but it happens to be also an ad unit. In this case, Suzuki is able to take over the entire screen, customize it, even make it look really fun with some little wheels that appear as you unlock your screen. And that ad unit is not seen as an ad unit at all. It is a function, it's a utility. But for Suzuki, it gives them an opportunity to engage with users as they unlock their apps, every single time they unlock an app. So for me, it's a little bit like product placement. Remember how Coca-Cola is placing bottles of Coke in Mad Men, or how BMW is placing cars in Mission Impossible movies? You want to figure out ads that are really much more than ads. They're maybe even useful. And how is this performing, you ask? Well, look at this. This is pretty impressive. On our own data set, we have seen that native advertising delivers 8 to 10 times higher click-through rate, 3 to 5 times higher engagement, and 2 to 3 times higher lifetime value than banner ads. So it's working, right? Or it's starting to work. So in conclusion, I will say that ad blockers are here to stay. It's not a fluke, but it actually is a wake-up call. For me, what's really exciting is that it forces us to use tiny data and understand the user's intent. It forces us to think about ad units that are useful and ways to engage with consumers that add value. It forces us to redefine what an ad should look like. So it's exciting. I think as a marketer, I'm very hopeful for the future of mobile advertising, and as a user trying to meditate, I'm also hopeful that soon I'll be able to do it without interruptive ads.
Thank you for the great presentation. So this behavioral pattern that you were referring to, is it something that you do in-house at Cheetah Mobile, or you primarily rely on Facebook?
We do it exclusively based on our own data. So the beauty of the data that we have is that it's very different from the data that Facebook has. Facebook is essentially relying on demographic and psychographic information, which works for generic targeting, but doesn't really get updated, and so doesn't really move with the users as they move in their life. So we exclusively use our own analysis of what is most recent and most relevant. And on top of it, we layer typical demographic and psychographic information that most DMPs have.
Yeah, I know you mentioned that you don't take any social data, but do you think that it could in the future be a hindrance for you guys if people see this as a privacy issue, like they don't want people tracking the kind of apps that they use? Maybe they're banking apps, they don't want people to know what banks they're in, or similar issues like that?
Yes, you're right. Privacy is at the heart of this question, right? And the first layer of protection is to make sure we don't store any PII, any personally identifiable information. So we really take great care to not know what we don't want to be able to use, right? And that users would be, sensitive about us using. The second layer is really to make sure you respect all the privacy laws all around the world. We're a global company, and so we operate by the strictest standards. And particularly in Europe and in the US, you can imagine the standards are pretty high. The third thing is, I think, to think about the user value. How would you notice or be upset that your privacy was violated? Oftentimes it's because you would see a very intrusive, very no-parent, very upsetting ad. And so if you take to heart the user experience and only showing them things that are value added to them, I think you end up respecting that privacy versus data sharing trade-off. And as most studies show, the trade-off is positive so long as the value is there. If you start bombarding me with ads, no matter what kind of info you have about me, I will feel violated no matter what. But if you're only showing me things that are relevant to me, then it's helpful. If I go back to the social network example, very funny example is, I'm not a heavy Facebook user. Probably the most boring friend you would ever have on Facebook. I only post things about work. So Facebook doesn't really know much about me other than my demographic and psychographic information. Well, Facebook figures out I'm a woman, and I guess they think I'm getting old. So the only kind of ads that I see are ads for fertility clinics. Well, guess what? I have kids and I'm fine. Thank you very much. Facebook, thank you for the message. But that's one of the situations where I feel like my privacy is being invaded at this point, because I feel like you're doing such a poor job, right? You have this data about me. You're doing such a poor targeting job. I'm guessing these clinics pay you a lot of money to show me ads, but it's really irrelevant. They're wasting their money. And also I feel a little offended that you're not taking greater care in just looking at what I do. You could see that I'm using all these baby apps. You could see that I have other signals that mark that I don't really have interest for this. So again, it all comes down to the value you're providing, I think.
So ad blocking is quite, I think, a hot topic per se in our industry. So are you seeing any impact by ad blocking on your revenue?
No, not impact. Right now, ad blocking is not available yet for mobile apps. So I'm sure it's a matter of time until that code is cracked. We are not seeing any impact on our revenues, mostly because our advertising is native. It's almost entirely native, and that's a result that we've come to through years of experimenting, actually way before ad blocking came around, way before native advertising was trendy, because we were trying to improve our customer experience, and because we always launch our apps with consumers first, and we only introduce advertising later in the process. When we introduce advertising, we really take a lot of great care that it doesn't hurt our user experience. So ad blocking has not been an impact for us, and has not been an impact even on our mobile web network, because we mostly have native ads, even on mobile web. But I welcome it. I really think it's a wake-up call in the industry to force everybody to think about the kind of experience that we're providing. And like the mobile, like the internet has also evolved in terms of advertising and thinking about better targeting, I think the Wild Wide West days of mobile advertising need to be over. It needs to be a better user experience. So it's actually a turn of events that we really welcome. I will say there's two sides of the same coin. If you are an app developer and you're looking to monetize your apps, all you care about at the end of the day is maximizing the lifetime value of your users. And in lifetime value, there's lifetime and there's value. Very basic, but if you go for short-term, put a lot of ads, you will lose lifetime. And if you're an advertiser, you should care about your mobile media lifetime value. Because at the end of the day, this impression you're going to make on your users, even if they don't click on your ad right away, this is the first impression you're making. And so you want to make the right impression when they come back and decide to download your app. They have seen you before, and you don't want them to have seen you in the context where like trying to X out of the ad and trying to continue doing what it is that they were doing. You want them to remember as being, oh, that was a pretty cool app that came along. That was a pretty cool suggestion. So it's not because you're advertising that you shouldn't care about what your ad looks like. Actually, quite the contrary. Even if you're just measuring based on performance, there's a brand effect to how you show your ads.
Okay, so thank you very much.